July 15th, 1976. A school bus with 26 kids on it just disappears. The town is a mess, parents are freaking out, and everyone is thinking of the worst things that could happen. After hours, the bus is found, but the kids and the driver are gone, sucked into a scary secret. How could a whole bus full of kids just vanish? What crazy plan could have made this happen? What happened to those kids? That's more important. This story's crime is so shocking that it's difficult to believe. Follow us as we find out the scary truth about the Chowchilla kidnapping. Just a few thousand people lived in the little farming community of Chowchilla in California's Central Valley. The 1970s were known for its strong community, where everyone knew each other and crime was rare. Like many small towns throughout America, the community was not exempt from the worries and fears of the time. Rather, the shadow of the economic hardships of the era loomed large. In the United States, the 1970s were a stormy decade with political scandal, economic instability, and popular disenchantment mounting. Still recovering from the Vietnam War and the Watergate affair, the nation's trust in institutions was at an all-time low during this period, and worries about social instability and criminality were on the rise. Under this cloud of uncertainty, the Chowchilla kidnapping would come to represent the darkest fears of a society on the verge of collapse. A school bus with 26 students, ages 5 to 14, and their driver, Ed Ray, were returning from a summer trip to the Chowchilla Fairs in the afternoon of July 15, 1976. Suddenly, a van blocked the bus's path as it was driving on a rural road. 3 armed masked men attacked the bus while wearing pantyhose masks. The guys used a revolver to force the scared children and their driver into the vehicle. The kidnappers drove the group for nearly 12 hours, making a long trip before arriving at a rural rock site in Livermore, California, about 100 miles from Chowchilla. There, the criminals forced their prisoners into a covered moving truck that had been prepared in advance as an underground jail. With no access to food, drink, or ventilation, Ed Ray and the kids became trapped in the suffocating darkness. The kidnappers then left the site, planning to demand a ransom of $5 million from California for the hostages' release. Frederick Woods, Richard, and James Shonfeld led this bold crime. All 3 come from wealthy San Francisco Bay Area families with well-connected backgrounds. The Shonfeld brothers were the children of a well-known podiatry doctor. Frederick Woods was the son of a successful businessman. Even their wealthy families, the 3 of them, had financial problems and set up the kidnapping plot as a means to solve their financial difficulties. Early in his 20s, Woods, the ringleader, was a young guy with a past of minor criminal activity. He had been fascinated by the idea of committing the perfect crime, and the kidnapping plan was carefully built over several months. Their strong connection with Woods drew the Shonfeld brothers, also in their early 20s, into the scheme. They thought together they could carry off a crime that would make them rich beyond their wildest expectations. While the kidnappers thought they had organized an unbreakable plan, they underestimated the strength and resourcefulness of their hostages. After hours of being trapped in the underground prison, Ed Ray and some of the bigger children took it upon themselves to find a way out. Using pieces of wood they found in the truck, they started digging their way out. It was a painful process, made more difficult by the intense heat and lack of air. After more than 16 hours underground, the group finally managed to break through the roof of the truck and escape to the top. They emerge covered in dirt, tired and traumatized, but living. Once free, they walked to a nearby security station at the quarry and called the authorities. Their escape was nothing short of miraculous, and it served as a tribute to the strength of human dedication in the face of unspeakable horror. News of the kidnapping and amazing escape went quickly across the country, attracting the interest of the media and the general public. The FBI immediately started a large search for the kidnappers, and within 2 weeks, Frederick Woods and the Shonfeld brothers were found. There was strong evidence against them, including fingerprints found on the buried vehicle and the van used in the kidnapping. The trial of the Chowchilla kidnappers was a media event, with the court filled with journalists and curious spectators. The court found Woods and the Shonfeld brothers guilty and sentenced them to life in jail with no chance of release. However, their cases were reconsidered several times over the years, and Richard and James Shonfeld were ultimately paroled in 2012 and 2015, respectively. Frederick Woods was officially granted parole on August 17, 2022. The kidnapping had a deep and long-term psychological impact on both the children and Ed Ray. Many of the youngsters experienced post-traumatic stress disorder and struggled with anxiety, nightmares, and other mental health concerns for years after the tragedy. Ed Ray, popular as a hero for his part in helping the children escape, was profoundly impacted by the events until his death in 2012. The Chowchilla kidnapping had a major impact on both the town and the nation as a whole. It resulted in adjustments to school bus safety measures, as well as a greater understanding of crime victims' psychological requirements. The episode is still one of the most famous and terrifying crimes in American history, serving as a reminder of the fragility of safety and the strength of the human being. When the Chowchilla was taken hostage in 1976, it was one of the scariest and most daring crimes in American history. It was a crime that shocked the whole country and showed how bad people can be and how brave regular people can be. When we think about this sad chapter, it reminds us of how important it is to be alert, how important it is to be kind after a traumatic event, and how strong people are who, despite all chances, found a way to live.